Web3 is rewriting the rules, technology, finance, freedom. So we're sitting down with some of the builders in the space to get their take on where things are heading.
It's really the most effective way today for people to be able to spend digital assets in the real world.
Cryptos are really more retail driven, we gotta face it.
I'm actually still believing that the way we are changing things is for the better.
The way that we interact with crypto is being rewritten in real time. And this is a Now Effect by ChangeNOW. Feel the power of now. Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Pauline from ChangeNOW, and welcome back to our series on blockchain security. Previously, we've talked about the various types of scams that exist in the cryptocurrency world, how to shield yourself from those scams, as well as what to do when you actually get scammed. I'm joined by my fellow cryptocurrency enthusiast, Albert Quehenberger, who is CEO and head of investigations at a blockchain forensics firm, AQ Forensics. Albert Quehenberger, thank you so much for being here with us, Albert.
Thank you very much for the introduction. As you may know, ChangeNOW was also very deeply involved in recovering these funds, thankfully. A businessman from Switzerland, very clever guy, very smart guy, was convinced via an social engineering attack to invest more than 250,000 euros in a couple of cryptocurrencies in wallet addresses he got before from the criminals. And so it came that he transferred within 20 transactions Bitcoin to a platform. And we figured that out, and we get in touch with you and involved the Swiss law enforcement agency, of course. And your compliance department was very helpful, thankfully. And they blacklisted addresses. We figured out where still some funds are remaining from the theft case. And they also forwarded us information that we have been able to go on in the investigation and figure out what has happened with the Bitcoins already exchanged on the platform. And so this gave us the opportunity and the possibility to bring almost 100,000 euro back of the stolen funds, because the criminals sent a couple of months later, after the blocklisting request, the remaining Bitcoins to a platform. And the compliance department was acting super fast and super professional and has frozen these funds and got in touch with us immediately.
Yeah, thank you so much for mentioning that we were also involved. And this is a usual case for us when something like a theft or a hack happens. What is usually done by a good victim. Of course, there is no perfect victim, but at the same time, the businessman who was stolen from acted quite fast, as I believe he turned to AQ Forensics first. Is that correct?
First of all, he collected the digital evidence and forwarded it to the Swiss law enforcement agency. Mm-hmm. And afterwards, he hired us additionally to the law enforcement agencies. So we collaborated here step by step and coordinated everything properly, which steps we are doing, because from case to case, the law enforcement agencies and we are using different tools for tracing the stolen funds, labeling the funds, and doing the communication. And we don't want to do work twice or three times, which is not needed. So we had to coordinate the whole investigation.
That's great. And as we've talked about in the previous video on what to do if you've been scammed, in case you forgot, let me remind you that if an unspeakable thing happened and you were, so to say, relieved of your funds by a scammer in a phishing attack, in a pig butchering scam, a social engineering attack, or another type of crypto scam like a rug pull, the very first thing you need to do is to collect the evidence that proves that you're actually used to be in possession of your crypto funds. It could be a receipt from a platform where you acquired the cryptocurrency. It can be screenshots from a mining platform if you obtained the funds from mining, or screenshots from your exchange account, obviously obfuscating any type of like crucial personal information. If you obtain the funds from trading, then you have to talk to law enforcement and present them with your proof of ownership of the funds that were stolen. And then it's best to turn to a blockchain forensics firm like AQ Forensics so that they can help trace the funds that have been stolen, see what platforms that might have gotten to, or on what wallets they are currently residing. And after that, the platform like ChangeNOW will receive information that some funds are either being headed our way or have been at some point on ChangeNOW and being swapped, or ended up on ChangeNOW and we managed to freeze it. And after that, the law enforcement, along with the blockchain forensics firm, are going to craft a subpoena that you can send, again, your law enforcement professional, either a detective or officer, is going to send to us. And by law of your jurisdiction, we will be obliged to either provide law enforcement with information where the funds went after we exchanged them, or return the funds to you as the victim. So Albert, have I missed anything? Is there anything we should add so that the listeners have the full perspective?
I think it was very, very good to sum the whole topic up. So what is crucial: collecting digital evidence, opening a file with the law enforcement agency, involving, if needed, a private investigation company, get in touch with the platforms you may be figuring out which have received stolen funds. You can also put a note in EaseScan, for example, or use some blockchain explorer, which are most likely available for free for all users. And no, I think you pointed on all the important topics.
Nice. And you've mentioned that we've managed to return around 100,000 euros to the victim, but can you tell us a little bit what happened to the other, to the rest of the funds, and what's the course of action that is usually taken when a part of the money has been recovered, but the other part is still somewhere either like trackable on chain, or what can be done if it's not?
Yeah. I think first of all, I have to explain a little bit the structure of criminal organizations. So they are organized like enterprises. So which means they have some departments which are very professional when it comes to setting up some fake trading platform, for example. And then they have departments who are responsible for the social engineering part, and they are absolutely experts that for. And but the departments are not directly connected to each other. So they are hired from case to case individually. And in that case, we had this fake trading platform, and we had this social engineering component and the transfer of the funds, Bitcoin, ETH, and stuff like that. As mentioned before, 20 transactions went through ChangeNOW, and we figured out that the Bitcoin had been exchanged into a stablecoin, into Tether on the Tron blockchain, which is super fast and not so transparent like other blockchains. Of course, we can figure out in which wallets are these stablecoins have been sent to, but there are not so many entities who labeled their hot wallet addresses, for example, like other platforms are doing that. And so that makes it really, really hard for investigators to figure out where the stolen funds ended up at the end of the day. And some funds are still remaining in some wallets, and there we have, from a technical perspective, the possibility to observe them, to put an alarm on them, which means if there is any movement out or inside this wallet, we are getting a notification in real time, and then we can go on in the investigation in real time. And this is a real benefit for the crypto-related investigations from my point of view.
Oh, so basically if some funds that have been stolen and they ended up either on a wallet or as a deposit, for example, on a centralized exchange, you can put a little label on them.
Correct.
So when there's like movement happening,
Yeah.
you get alerted, and then you can either, like, how does it happen? Do you send a request to a platform right away when you see the funds moving, or do you send your kind of notification to a platform if the funds had been deposited onto it?
Yeah, absolutely. When we figure out that some funds are sent to a user's account on a platform, a deposit address, we are also always informing the platform about this suspicious behavior. So this gives the platform the chance to have a look on it, on the whole case, on the whole account. And we also are able to label wallet addresses as suspicious or fraudulent or stolen coins, and this information is also shared with all the platforms using the same tools like we do. And if they don't, we are going proactively to them and sending them an email, a description about the happenings and the related wallet addresses and transactions.
Okay, so basically this kind of gives the blockchain community hope that, I mean, what was it like before? If somebody stole your crypto, you basically were not protected against anything. If somebody stole your crypto and you would go to law enforcement, they would be like, well, you knew what you were getting into, so there's nothing you can do now and there's nothing we can do. And thanks to the existence of modern blockchain forensics technologies and companies like yours, both platforms and businesses and individuals and law enforcement can actually work together on returning the money to the victims.
Absolutely.
Which I think is amazing. But at the same time, it's important to note that it's better not to get scammed than doing all the legwork of recovering your funds and talking to law enforcement, as law enforcement if like certain countries can be less cooperative than in the others, and certain precious time might still be lost, which could lead to like a partial, at the very least, like a partial loss of assets, or it taking more time to actually recover the assets. And in our previous conversation, you mentioned that the longest period of time you've been watching Bitcoin on a wallet was, what, 2 years?
I would say 3.5 years. It was our first case ever. But we managed to bring back in total, our client lost 150,000 euros and we managed to bring back 96,000 from them. So it was the longest case, the most not advanced, but time-consuming case, I would say, because the public prosecutor closed the case 2 times.
Oh, wow.
And so we had to find a way to reopen the case again and again. And because without the help of a public prosecutor or the law enforcement agencies, it's even quite harder to get some stolen funds back.
Actually, this sounds like a very interesting case. Can you talk a little bit more at length about what happened and what was going on, what transpired after?
This was a typically Roman scam. Our client was contacted, I think, via social media, LinkedIn or something like that, from an Asian wonderful woman, and she love-bombed him. Love-bombing means she's permanently making him some compliments, sending messages, kind messages, and so she tried to build a bridge, an emotional bridge to the victim. And at some point in the relationship, she dropped buzzwords like crypto trading, cryptocurrencies, financial freedom, and stuff like that. And our client was married, but after 30 years of marriage, it's not so fresh anymore, the relationship. And so it was very comfortable for him that there was a young, beautiful woman making him compliments and is very polite to him. And so he was curious about what could happen when he tries to invest a couple of hard money, fiat money into cryptocurrencies and trade it, because the honeypot told him that her uncle is the owner of a very successful trading company based in Singapore. And he tried to invest a small amount of money. I think he started with 100 euros or 200 euros, and he made 500 euros out of the first investment. He tried to withdraw a couple of the wins. It worked very well. And so he was convinced that everything is serious, that everything is working fine. And this was the moment where he invested this 150,000 euros in a couple of transactions. And the honeypot did this very well, because there was a technical support team which also guided him through the whole process of on-ramping, which means buying cryptocurrencies, transferring the cryptocurrencies into the right wallet, which stands for the trading platform. Then they explained him what to do on the platform to set the trade and stuff like that. But at some point they had a argument in the relationship, and so he told the honeypot, okay, he want to try to withdraw all the funds and he will break up with her. And this was the moment where the technical issues happened, because it was not possible to withdraw all the funds. And the support team told him, yeah, he made a failure and he has to deposit, I think, 3 or 5% of the whole wins to withdraw the funds. And at that moment, he figured out, okay, this whole story was a scam. And on the one hand, he lost this 150,000 euros. And on the other side, he left back with a broken heart.
And that's the most tragic thing, right?
Absolutely. This is the most disgusting scam which can happen to a person, really, because the money loss, yeah, it's hard to regain the funds, hard to create the wealth again, but the broken heart, the broken feelings is always another topic. It's way harder. And yeah, this was the point where he figured out he has to ask his social network about help. And the good thing was he talked to a friend of mine and sent him directly to the police department close to him. And after he opened the file with the law enforcement agency, he got in touch with us and we immediately started the investigation. And we have been able, and it was a hard fight, to recover most of the funds. Not everything, but it was a very good quote, I would say.
Could you say a bit more words about how you went about recovering the funds? Because again, the overall process is quite clear, that all of the tracing happens and communication both with law enforcement and blockchain platforms like service providers, like wallets and exchanges, so on and so forth. But you mentioned that not all of the money was recovered, which is still a good thing. When there's money recovered, it's always a good thing. But you did mention that it took you a very long time. So what exactly happened?
Yeah, I think it was at that point or at that time, it was a lack of knowledge from the official side, because after opening the file in the police department, they mentioned, or they told our client, okay, forget it, cryptos are involved. We never managed to recover some funds. So first of all, we had them, or to convince them that it's possible to recover some stolen funds. It's hard, yeah, but it's still possible. This was the one thing. The second thing was the public prosecutor, which is always leading an investigation for the police department, because they also had a lack of knowledge at this time, and they got a lot of wrong information from their IT department. They compared Bitcoin to stable coins and the consensus mechanisms and stuff like that. It was a little bit weird. But as mentioned before, we managed it to convince them and to teach them and show them that it's still possible to set some freezing requests to the platforms we figured out. They cooperated, and so it took us quite a long time, in total 3.5 years, till we get the first payment from the frozen funds. And then we had some jurisdictional problems because the public prosecutor got in touch with our client and asked him, okay, how can we pay you the funds back? Should we pay back the cryptocurrencies or should we pay back the fiat currencies? And he asked me, and I recommended taking the fiat currencies because it's the easiest path or the easiest way for him to off-ramp the funds back into fiat currencies. And so, yeah, he told them, the court, yes, I would choose euro. And then the judge told our client, yeah, that's not possible. They are not an exchange. He can get the funds back they have been able to recover and to freeze. And in that case, it was Tether. And during that time, because after 3.5 years, Tether didn't got the MiCA license. So most of the European exchanges delisted Tether. So we had another problem. We had to exchange Tether into USD Circle, send it back to an regulated exchange, and exchange the stable coins into a fiat money and transfer it back to the bank account. So this was the most complicated thing, I would say.
Well, that's one more hurdle which you can face when you're trying to recover your funds, and that's the currency requirements and the change in regulations. And oftentimes the exchange rate between currencies is different, especially if it's taken a long time. Sometimes you end up at a loss, even if the exact same amount of crypto got recovered, but in fiat money, it was a smaller amount. But at the same time, we had one case in our practice. It was 500 ETH that got stolen from him in a social engineering attack. He was an investor, and he was talking about like a potential investment deal with somebody he knew previously. And this person and the victim, they entered into an agreement where the investor would deposit money into his own escrow on Telegram, so that when the deal took place, the funds would be transferred back to the attacker. But the attacker managed to distract the victim, and while the victim was distracted, probably by either like potential gains or something, I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell. However, the attacker managed to replace the real escrow with a malicious one. Yes, and the victim transferred 500 ETH. We managed to catch 100 of them, and the perpetrator exchanged them into Monero. This was in the beginning of this year, or even it started in the end of 2025, if I remember correctly. And the exchange rate of ETH was high at the moment, and then the perpetrator was set to receive, I think, 1,400 Monero, like 1,400 something. And that money got frozen in an exchange state. But a few months later, after a very complicated set of events, involving Russian law enforcement, which was not the most cooperative. But in the end, we offered the client whether they want to receive the 100 ETH or the 1,400 Monero. And after some consideration, the client picked Monero. And when they exchanged it back into ETH, they ended up with 119 ETH. So they got 19 free ETH in the process, which I guess is one of the consolation options for a victim of a cryptocurrency attack.
Absolutely. There is another topic or another thing we should talk about, I think, because if we manage as a platform or an investigation company to recover some funds, they are always wearing this label suspicious or stolen funds. So we have to make clear that we whitewash these funds, because otherwise, if the victim, which is getting back the funds, the stolen funds, will exchange it on a regulated platform.
Yes, and then they are going to get an AML flag. That's actually a very good point, and thank you for bringing it up, because from what I've seen, as we know, there's a lot of like AML platforms on the market that do automated funds labeling. So for example, like Elliptic or Crystal or Chainalysis. And sometimes, even if these funds have been recovered by a platform and returned back to the victim, they still retain that label. We as a platform have been in certain situations like this, when somebody who hasn't like whitewashed their funds, they were received in a legitimate manner, for example, from a purchase or from mining, for example, or from investing. And those funds were sent to us. And then when we tried to exchange them through our own liquidity providers, we would get AML flagged. Well, what usually happens is we ask the client for their source of funds, and then we submit that source of funds to the platform, and then the funds usually get unlocked, but then they have to get whitewashed for the same reason that you've described. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video useful. Thank you so much for tuning in into our blockchain security videos. This has been Pauline, Chief Strategy Officer from ChangeNOW, and Albert Quehenberger, CEO and Head of Investigations at a blockchain forensics company called AK Forensics. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for the session.